morning, everybody. Joe Van Doren here, and welcome to our Virtues Pick for today. We're bright and early. We got a busy day, so we want to make sure we do this. And we have such a great word for this time of the year, and that word that came up today for us was moderation. So, boy, this is the time of the year when we really have to focus on this if we're going to stay healthy, right? So let's read the description first, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Moderation is being content with enough. It is using self-discipline to create healthy balance between work, rest, reflection, and play. Moderation protects us from the pull of addictive desires. We do not grasp to do or have more in the belief that we are lacking. We do not try to be everything to everyone. We set healthy boundaries that value our time and energy. We protect ourselves from the stress of overdoing. We discern our own perfect rhythm. Moderation isn't deprivation. It is loving ourselves enough to choose what is just right. Well, I don't know about you, but this just seems like the word that I needed to think about today and probably for the next few weeks, because we get to this time of the year and there's so many things pulling us in so many different directions. We have our family pulling us, we have the things that we want to do, we have work still that's going on and maybe in a more difficult way than it has been in the past. And we have these feelings that we need to do more for more people. And many times we forget about ourselves. And some of the science says that that's the reason why there's so many colds and flu and things that attack us after the first of the year, because we go through this very stressful time. And then when we relax a little bit after the first of the year, then, these things are more likely to attack us. So we just have to be careful and protect ourselves in all of those ways. It's just so important, and this is an area that that I keep working on, and maybe you do too, and that is keeping things in balance. We talk about the balance of the virtues, right? But we also need to balance our life. And it's not that everything we'll have the same amount of time for everything, but we need to make sure that we have our time for our work, of course, but also for resting and for taking time to reflect and to have time for play. Especially this is important when we have children. If they see that we're only about work, they can feel very, I don't want to say discarded, but feel alone. I had a situation one time that I heard about. I did not actually speak to this person myself, but someone else had told me this. They told me about a 16-year-old boy whose family gave him a BMW M3 or so, I don't know. It was some pretty expensive and fancy car when he turned 16, but he was still feeling depressed because what he really wanted was time, attention with the family, and it wasn't something that he was getting. So we just want to keep all those things in mind, just for our own health's sake and for the health of our kids and our family. And it's not that we're going to deprive ourselves of having those social occasions. We're not going to deprive ourselves of not working and providing for our family. But we are going to take the time to rejuvenate ourselves, to take care of our spiritual well-being, to take care of our physical well-being, and not feel that we have to be everything to everyone or provide or do everything that everyone else is doing. We need to take care of ourselves as best that we know how to do for ourselves. One of the biggest questions that we get especially at the college, is how do I balance my work, my schoolwork, parenting, and a social life? And so it is all about moderation. And it begins with being very clear about what's important to us, what's important right at this moment, and then and carving out the time for every one of those areas that we have. And even when we don't feel like we have the time to do those things that are important, like reflection and time for social life and whatnot. If we can just get a small piece of it, it can sometimes make the biggest difference. So instead of ignoring it completely, we take a little bit. So that really brings up the question then of how do we teach our children about moderation, or how do we draw that moderation out of them, because it's very easy for them to become as addicted to their desires, and those desires for them are going to be different than ours as adults. But we want to protect them or help them to see that their time management skills are important, so that they get their work done, so that they have the rest that they need to grow, so that they have time for their spiritual development and the development of their virtues, and have time for play. And so we've seen the illustration of putting things in a jar and deciding what the big rocks are. And maybe you've heard that term. I think Stephen Covey talked about it. And so we put the big rocks in first. We put our work in first, right? And then the next biggest thing is probably our rest and making sure that we're taken care of physically. And then we have time. The next is time for that reflection and for our spiritual development. And then the smaller things will fit in around that. We'll take the time for play. So helping our children to see that, maybe we use the actual illustration and use a jar and rocks and sand and all those things. But most important, we demonstrate it with our own actions and the way that we do things, and having that discussion when there's no emotions involved at family meetings is a really good way of approaching this. All right, everybody, that's my thoughts today about moderation. I will be thinking about this word not just today, but probably for the next few weeks, for just focusing on that and just asking myself, is my schedule today one that allows the time for all the things that are important for my well-being and for my families too? So thank you very much for being here, and until next time, keep practicing the virtues and the 4 C's of successful families, and that is clarity, communication, consistency, and community. Until next time.